ain't the plug, I'm connected to the socket. Already paid dues, I'm forever paying homage.
All right. Playbook in one stop. Playbook is back in the building. Appreciate you, my guy. What you been up to?
What's going on?
All right. Free agency kicked off. And it's a lot of movement going on. All right. A lot of people making a lot of big choices. But we can always trust that the Detroit Pistons is going to do absolutely nothing. All right, so this is what I try to explain to people. Detroit can only have one good team at a time. All right, having lived here our entire lives, they can only have one good team. But it seems like everybody in Detroit sacrificed over a hot flame the Detroit Pistons so the Lions can be good last year. So the Pistons, they went out, they fired Monty Williams. They still got to pay him about $60 million or whatever remaining on his contract, and they hired JB Bickerstaff. And you go out, you give Tobias Harris 2 years, $52 million to bring him back to Detroit. I mean, how you feeling about your Pistons? I don't know if they're your Pistons, but you live here.
I mean, they is. I'm a Detroiter. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, if I had a favorite team, it would have to be the Pistons. But as far as like,
that's crazy to say out loud on the live mic.
Yeah, if I had to, cause you know I'm a players team guy when it comes to the NBA. I don't really have a favorite team. I just you know I'm with the KD train. Like wherever he goes, that's where I'm at.
Hey man, but everywhere.
If it come down to a team, I'm riding with my Detroiters. I'm riding with the Pistons. But as far as like some of the moves that they making, man, they looking like that ex that like missed what they had. So they trying to double back or something that. Like
they're not making any sense.
What are y'all doing?
They're not making any real moves.
Y'all not evolving.
I'll say on the flip side to that, all right? Pistons not doing much, but I think the subtle movement of the San Antonio Spurs, it getting Chris Paul to pair up with Wembanyama going into his next phase. I mean, Wemby averaged 23 and 10 or something like that last season, 3 or 4 blocks. Defensive Player of the Year finalist, Rookie of the Year. You pair him up with Chris Paul. What do you think CP3 is going to mean for Wemby in this next phase of his career?
Bro, it's going to mean a lot because not only do you got CP3 and Wemby, but you got CP3 Pop. You feel me? Under Pop and Wemby. So,
you're right.
So Pop is going to already going to add to the leadership and veteran mentality that Chris Paul is going to bring into that locker room.
Yep.
Chris Paul is going to be able to feed off of Pop. And then Wemby is going to be able to feed off of both of them, and you know, be able to lead the team. Mm-hmm. You know, we might be seeing a play-in appearance from San Antonio.
I like them for a play-in. I think they need one more young piece, young piece. And you know what? Larry Markkanen's name has been thrown around a lot.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where he lands.
So where Markkanen lands, that's going to be a big tell. But if he's able to get to San Antonio, you got Wemby 7'4", 7'5", Markkanen 7 feet. You got Chris Paul, his leadership, floor general. I'm looking at a mixture between the OKC Chris Paul and the Clippers Chris Paul, where he can set Wemby up. What?
Did the Spurs have to give up? What did they have to give up any? I'm sorry. Did they have to give up any of their backcourt to make that?
They just signed him. CP3 was a free agent. He got waived.
They still got Trey Jones and those young guys in the backcourt.
Out there. They got all their pieces still. So we could see you know, some more movement with San Antonio. Next on the list, let's talk about Oklahoma City. All right, for me, this is a sneaky move. All right, it's very sneaky, and we talked about OKC before. I said they didn't have to do a whole lot. They needed to get some vets, some more defenders. All right. I threw out Hartenstein's name in reference to a couple other teams. He ends up in OKC. You trade Josh Giddey. Now, Josh Giddey, for the past couple years, he's been one of my favorite young guys in the league. Rebound, score, pass, stuff like that. But he got exposed in the playoffs because he can't play defense. You send him packing, you bring in Caruso. Caruso's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. I say he's maybe top 3, top 5 behind Drew Holiday and Jaylen Brown. But you add Hartenstein, you add Caruso, you keep your core of Williams, SGA, Chet. How you feeling about OKC?
I'm feeling good because I already told people last year. I told them since last year, like OKC literally has a championship team. Like they have one. Like they remind me of Boston, a young Boston. That's literally what OKC remind me of. How Boston was when they first got Tatum and first got Jaylen Brown. Like they were already a championship team, just inexperienced. So you get some experience. You bring some experienced guys into that lineup that are already talented and young lineup that you got. And you can make a playoff run, and the more you experience, even if you lose, the more you experience the playoffs, the closer you get to really getting over that hump and getting to the finals and eventually getting a ring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and SGA, all right, everybody's talking about the MVP conversation that happened last year. SGA is going to be in the same situation again this year. I think they're going to be a lot better than they were last year. They may not be the first seed, but they're still going to be in a situation where they have home court advantage. I think SGA is going to find himself back in the MVP discussion. Now, another player that is not unfamiliar to MVP conversations is LeBron James. All right. Los Angeles Lakers, they were making a lot of things happen over the past couple of weeks. I told you there was 3 things that needed to happen. All right. Number 1, you got JJ Redick as the head coach. Number 2, you got Bronny James. The third piece that you needed was for LeBron to sign. All right. You got all of those 3 things. Those were the 3 things that I said needed to happen for the Lakers. But the 4th domino, the most important one, they needed another guy to put them over the hump or even put them in a championship conversation. They strike out on DeRozan. He goes to Sacramento. You don't get Paul George. You don't get Chris Paul to add to that, that backcourt. You don't get any of those type of players that were available on the market. So now where does the Lakers go from here? I mean, do you say, okay, we're going to feature Anthony Davis? Is that something you can rely on for the entirety of the season? And JJ Redick said he wants LeBron to shoot more 3-pointers this year. What do you see from the LA Lakers going forward in this upcoming season?
I see for the Lakers to be the team that they've been lately. I don't want to say I haven't been looking at the Lakers as a legit contender, but like I said, like you said, actually, I was looking for them to make, like, especially with everybody that was available in this free agency.
1,000%.
I was expecting them to bring another guy in to kind of help LeBron out, because I do look at AD to be able to carry the load, but I think that he does need a sidekick, and not to say that like LeBron is a sidekick, like, or he's not still one of the best players in the world, but LeBron is 40 years old. Yeah. I don't think you really, it's a young man's game. I don't think even if you were talking about somebody with the likes of LeBron James, as great as he is, I think you shouldn't look at him to be the best player on the floor every night. Yeah. That's not the guy you want to rely on every single night, night in and night out. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, I think you needed another guy that, was kind of on the same tier as LeBron or Anthony Davis to kind of come in and carry that load night in and night out.
Bro, I told you the 2 names. And look, I can't say I'm perfect. I can't say I know everything. And I can't say I'm always right. But I know a little bit. I know a little bit about the game. And the 2 names that I said they had to get was Paul George and Klay Thompson. All right. Most importantly, you don't get Paul George. He goes to Philly. How do you not make that happen? They are literally in the same building. I'm pretty sure in the same building still until this upcoming season. He plays for the Clippers. The boy lives right down the street. He wants to be in LA. We know that for a fact. Kobe Bryant is the man's idol. We know that. We know he's always grown up wanting to play in the Lakers uniform. That's a fact. And you still don't figure out a way to make it happen. Everybody short of LeBron James and Anthony Davis is available on the market to be traded. I would trade you the draft picks. Next, I'll trade Bronny James. I don't care. I'll throw in Bryce too. I will trade everybody I need to trade to get Paul George to make sure A, he doesn't go to anybody else in the West, and B, he doesn't go to another championship contender. That's problem number one. Problem number two, we'll talk about the Knicks and the Sixers in a minute. Problem number two is Klay Thompson went to a team that just came from the finals. He goes to Dallas. Now you have a backcourt with Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, Luka Doncic. You have PJ Washington at the 4, and you have Lively and Gafford at the 5. They have probably the best, most cohesive 5-man unit where all of the pieces fit. There's no question about what this guy is going to do on a nightly basis. What can he?
And Klay,
none of those questions.
Klay don't take away.
How do you feel about
away from nothing on the defensive end at all?
Exactly. How do you feel about Dallas' chances of getting back?
I think they got really good chances. The only thing that I would, if I just had to play devil's advocate to it, is just that it's in sports. Period. It's hard to get back 2 years in a row. It's tough. It is. But when when you explained it the way you just explained it, took the words right out of my mouth. Like, how could you, how could they not have their eyes again?
Because remember what I said. If this player goes to another team, they're either going into the same conference or they're going to a championship contender. Klay Thompson did both. So that eliminates, in my mind, until they can sort everything out in Golden State. Golden State's not in the championship picture. Denver, they're still trying to figure their stuff out. They got beat by the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves, they still got a lot to learn, but I don't think they're better than Dallas. I mean, there's a lot. The Clippers are in absolute shambles right now. They trying to move Russell Westbrook right now. So like, Phoenix, they don't know which way is up because they spent all that money on the big three. They have no more money to pay anybody else. And the big three are not a cohesive unit because you have two shooting guards and you don't know who the point guard is. So listen, all right, they have a chance to get back. But like I said, the two parts to that is he went to a team that could get back to the championship and he went to the Western Conference. Honestly, my top four is probably Denver, Dallas. I'll go Minnesota and OKC. Those are my top four teams in the West going into this season. And if they all have home court advantage, fine. But we know Dallas can win on the road and we know Minnesota can win on the road. So it's not a situation where, all right, if we get, one of the top four seeds, we can probably knock these teams out. None of that matters now, especially not in this last year's playoffs. So, I mean, looking at Dallas, I think the chances are high that they could at least make the conference finals.
For sure. I agree. Most definitely.
Now, let's talk about the Eastern Conference as it pertains to the Boston Celtics. You look at what the Knicks were able to finesse out of the Brooklyn Nets. All right. They got the Villanova Knicks is what everybody's calling them. They got Dante, they got Jalen Brunson, they got Hart, they paired him up with Bridges. You got Julius Randle coming back from injury. You probably still have Mitchell Robinson. You were able to sign OG Anunoby to his max deal. Then you look at Philly. You bring in Paul George. You bring Andre Drummond back to Philly. You get Gordon from Phoenix. You got Embiid. You got Maxey. You lose Tobias Harris. I mean, I don't even know if that's a real loss. He goes to Detroit. Which team is the most serious threat to Boston in just that division alone?
So, by recent history, of course, I'm going to say the Knicks, and I'm a little biased, so I'm going to say the Knicks. But I'm going to throw an if in there, right? I'm going to throw an if in there. If
what?
Joel
I got an if.
Embiid,
I got an if.
Yeah.
If Miami was in that division, they'd be Miami. How about that?
Okay. It's always Miami. It's always Miami. They went to the finals 2 years ago as an 8th seed, so
yeah,
it's always Miami. But my if that I'm gonna throw in there is if Joel Embiid is healthy, I'm gonna say Philly. I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna say
to
Philly.
beat Boston in the 7-game series.
Yeah, if Embiid is 100%, like I'm talking 100%.
Yeah. Now, look, I agree with Philly, but I'll say this as the reason why. When you look at the most recent pairings with Joel Embiid, okay, there's been 3 star pairings. You got James Harden, Ben Simmons, and Jimmy Butler. There's only one of those 3 that's dominant on both sides of the ball, and that's Jimmy Butler. And they were a miracle Kawhi Leonard 4 bounces on the rim shot away from going to the conference finals, and they would have beat Milwaukee that year. I think they would have beat Milwaukee that year in the conference finals and go to the finals. And they probably would have beat Phoenix because they were better than them too in that year. But no. That year they would have had to play Golden State. They would have beat them too because KD was out. So anyways, the last time he had a guy that was dominant on both sides of the ball was Jimmy Butler, and they had success. You get that again in Paul George. And then on top of that, you have Tyrese Maxey emerging, playing ball, playing phenomenal. I mean, the boy was putting up 25 to 30 points a night when Embiid was out with his injury. Imagine if you already had Paul George in that scenario. They probably would have had a good chance to get to the conference finals, and then you add in Embiid, obviously, their MVP candidate. I don't see anything wrong with saying that they're the biggest threat to Boston in that division. But again, health is a big if. Paul George, he played about 74 games last year, 47% from the field, 41 from 3. He had a great season, 24, 5-4, played a great season, but health is not always there for those two in particular, all right? I look at the Knicks. The Knicks are so scary because they match up with Boston perfectly. You have Brunson, DiVincenzo, Bridges, Hart. They can all play heavy minutes. Then you add in OG Anunoby. Then you add in the guys that are coming off the bench. Look, I think that division alone, two of those teams is going to be a top 4 seed. Whoever is not a top 4 seed, it's going to be because they continuously had to play the other 2 teams throughout the course of the regular season. I think Embiid's going to have an MVP type year if he's healthy. I think Jalen Brunson is going to have an MVP type year if he's healthy. I think Boston's bigger problem is going to be the hangover. They're going to deal with a hangover period. I mean, that's just the inevitability of the situation. It depends on how long that hangover is going to last, because a lot of times it takes you about 20 games to shake it off, get you out of that, that funk that, all right, we won last year, still hanging on to it, still expecting teams to respect us as champions every time we come into their gym, gonna blow them by 20. That's not the case no more. You're gonna get everybody's best every single night now because heavy is the head that wears the crown. So now you got to deal with that. In the grand scheme, the championship scheme of things, based on some of the moves that has happened in the Eastern Conference, who do you see as the legit threat out of everybody to beat Boston?
Outside of New York,
I mean, that everybody as a whole, the whole conference, Eastern Conference. I mean, if you want to say it's somebody out west, who do you see knocking off Boston?
oh, as a whole.
As a whole.
Oh, that's tough.
I still say Miami.
I was about to say Miami too, but I was gonna say besides New York, orange and blue skies, bro. Like, no, I'm riding with out east. But
when did you become a New
York
fan?
That's what I was gonna say.
What I want to know.
Before.
That's what I want to know. When you became a New York fan? I think that's a valid question. I think that's a good question to ask. I think that's a question that deserves. I'm a Jalen Brunson fan. I think that question deserves an answer. So you was a Dallas fan before you became a Knicks fan.
You know how I became a Jalen Brunson fan though?
How?
I like the Suns. I've been liking the Suns before KD ever even went to the Suns. I was rocking with them when they had Chris Paul and Devin Booker and dominating.
So when Dallas beat them, you switched up?
That's when I found I really seen Jalen Brunson. Like, I'm like, I remember him from Villanova, but
Yeah,
he
so
went
ain't
like,
no. So what you telling me? There's no loyalty in the game. You just a fan for hire. That's what you saying. You a
I'm a
fan for
basketball
hire.
fan. I'm a basketball fan.
Watch out. Move around.
I like killers and Jalen Brunson.
You a fan for hire. That's what we're gonna call it. You a fan for hire.
Nah, man,
right?
I'm a Miami fan too.
Nah, we don't need you over here. We don't need you over here. We don't need no Knicks fans on the bandwagon. Watch out.
Miami since 06, baby.
Listen, bandwagon. Right there. All right. I was here before that.
Of course you was.
I was here before that.
You still here.
Anyways.
I'm gone. I've been gone.
We're going to close out with this. All right. We're not going to go beyond a minute or two. Bronny James drafted 55th overall to the Los Angeles Lakers. Okay.
Y'all know we can't leave without talking about
Listen.
Bronny.
All right. I know this is everybody's on this topic, but I want to say this. Okay. And then I'm going to let you close it out and then we can be done. But I think everybody is confused that we think that Bronny is already elite, already proven. He deserves a spot, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. My perspective is we're actually rooting for LeBron as a father because as a dad, we would love to be able to put our kids in that position. And a byproduct of that, we want Bronny to do well. That's my perspective. I'm not saying Bronny deserves, to be a starter on the Lakers or anything like that. I'm saying LeBron has done an amazing job as a father, and thus I want to see his son succeed in the position that he finds himself in. How you feel about Bronny right now?
First I want to say congratulations to Bronny. And congratulations to LeBron. They making history right now.
Yeah. Being
teammates. But like you said, like I feel like this is a moment that it's not like something that was just kind of like sprung up on you. It's something that you kind of been preparing for it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Throughout your life. Like
one of those things where you just see it coming from a mile away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like this is something you kind of been prepped for some time now. So I kind of want to see him achieve, and I kind of want to see him, I don't want to say put forth more effort because you don't even get to this place without effort. But
yeah,
I just want to see him. I want to see him kind of like, just grind it out a little bit more, because then the fans will grind it out with him a little bit more. You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I want him to kind of like block out all the noise. And just play ball, because you are James, and like I said, I feel like this is something you kind of been prepping for throughout your life. It's not something that it's not an opportunity that just like fell out the sky and you was like, oh, like one day you were a high school basketball player, the next day you were like, oh, I'm going to the NBA in a couple years. Like it's kind of like something you already knew was a possibility, throughout your adolescence. You get what I'm saying? So I would just like to see him block out the noise. You're not your father. We not expecting you to be a father, but I do kind of want to see him take on the mentality that his father took on early in his career.
Yeah,
that's what I think he could adapt from his dad.
And that's entirely fair to make that statement, and I agree with it. The only thing I will say is this: I think it's important to understand that there's a separation between people that troll on the internet and people that have a sound judgment about the entire situation. All right. So I try to have a sound judgment about it. I know what it is. Like I said, love what his father was able to do for him. Want to see him succeed in this position. That's another episode for Playbook in one stop. Get this video a like, subscribe to the channel. That's one more for the good guys.